Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 10, The Legends, brought to you by scoreboardfundraising.com. If your athletic department has any fundraising needs, check out scoreboardfundraising.com. They'll be glad to help you. And I'm with a true legend of the baseball world today. He was a head football coach for 3 years, but he's more known as a head baseball coach. Won over 600 games, state champion from LaGrange, Georgia. Coach Donnie Branch, thanks for being on with me.
Hey, my pleasure.
Well, Coach, where'd you grow up and go to high school?
I kind of grew up everywhere, honestly. My dad was in the military, a career man. So he was a 20-year military man. So I tell people, I think I went to 6 schools in 12 years. And I ended up, my last 4, my dad retired. So I could, at Fort McClellan in Anniston, Alabama, so I could go to high school at one place. And now I went to Weaver High School in the Anniston, Alabama area. So that's where I ended up we put our roots there. But again, I've lived from Germany to Hawaii to Pennsylvania to Virginia. I've been all over. So I've been pretty blessed.
So when you were in high school, I know Weaver, a lot of the schools in Alabama are a little bit smaller than they are in Georgia, and every town has a school. So I imagine you played everything when you were in high school.
I did. I think we graduated like 115, something like that. And I played baseball, basketball, and football. So I was a 3-sport guy. I was probably enjoyed the basketballs more because we won more than that, but in high school. But I played them all. I was definitely worse in football. Probably best in baseball, but probably enjoyed basketball the most. So I definitely enjoyed the 3-sport experience.
So did you get an opportunity to play in college, or did you just go to school to go to school?
Well, I did get an opportunity. I went kind of my senior year. My high school baseball coach mentioned, "Hey, I think you have a shot to maybe play junior college baseball." So I ended up working out and signing with Snead State Junior College in Boaz, Alabama. And I played there 2 years. And then I was a pitcher. And I pitched there 2 years, met my wife, future wife there, and signed after those 2 years. I went and signed with the University of North Alabama in Florence, Alabama. So that's where I got my degree from.
So did you know you were going to teach and coach, or were you chasing the baseball thing and that's just what worked out? How'd that come about?
Well, that's a trick question because it was kind of both. I was chasing the baseball because, I thought I was better than I was. And then reality set in the longer I stood around out there and played with some of the guys that I played with and the guys I played against to realize, hey, I'm probably not going to be a professional baseball player. And I'd always wanted to coach. My dad coached me growing up as much as he could. And he was a big influence on me and whatever community we were in. He was kind of the guy that his teams always won the league, was a really good coach and influenced a lot of kids. So I kind of wanted to be like him anyway. And then when I figured out I wasn't good enough to play at the professional level, I even coached, in the summers, some when I was home. I coached like a 12U and 13U kids when I was 17 and 18, because I just loved kind of the coaching aspect. And in the fall, when we weren't playing, I would go and be in the press box for our high school football team. My high school football coach would let me sit in the press box with his coaches and help, look for certain things like you do in the press box. So I learned a lot there. So, I've kind of always had it in my blood. And then, like I say, you're an athlete. When you're an athlete, you chase that dream. And then when you figure out, hey, maybe my calling is education. So ultimately, baseball made the decision for me. That's what I needed to do and wanted to do.
So, what was your first job out of college, like paying teaching gig?
Yeah, that's kind of funny because I was actually offered a job at Northeast Louisiana as a graduate assistant, and I was supposed to get married in August, and this was like I was offered a job in like April, May when I was at North Alabama. I had a connection there, and I was kind of hooked up, and then I kind of chickened out because I started thinking about getting married. Graduate assistant pay is not good. And I said, I better scramble and get a high school job. I was working a baseball camp at West Georgia. Jerry Royster baseball camp is actually what it was in Douglasville, and they told me one of the coaches that was working the camp said, I was kind of looking for a job, and he said, hey, try some of these schools down in South Georgia, and ended up I went down and interviewed for a at Wheeler County High School in Alamo, Georgia. And I was
Ooh, wee.
I was there 2 years, and it was funny because when we went down there, when I called them, I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." And they said, "Well, we need a football and a baseball coach, a head coach." Well, I knew, you know, obviously they're pretty desperate. So I called a buddy of mine and said, "Hey," that was coaching in Alabama. Said, "Hey, you want to drive down here?" He was an assistant football coach at Butler High School in Huntsville, and said, "Let's ride down there together." They hired us both when we went down there. Him as football, me as baseball, and then we were each other's assistant. And I tell people now, I say, I think they would have hired anybody that stopped in town that day. It just so happened that it was us, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. The experience I got, I was a head coach at age 23, and had to, make all the decisions and get the bus, reserve a bus and worry about concessions and get the field ready. And, I had to learn on the run at age 23. The good news is nobody really cared around there. You know what I mean? They were just happy to have somebody.
Yeah.
So in football, it was the same way. And we actually did pretty well in baseball the second year. Those kids were awesome. I stay in touch. I mean, I still got some of them. We talk. I mean, they're pretty old now. I was 5 years older than they were. But it was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it was kind of like living in Mayberry. I mean, it was one traffic light, no chain restaurants. We were newlyweds, so it wasn't ideal. It was 20 minutes to get a Big Mac. It was 45 minutes to go to the Dublin Mall. It was, we were kind of isolated, but again, it was a great learning experience for me.
Where did you go after those 2 years at Wheeler County?
Well, after those two, I went to LaGrange. So I'm a two-stop guy. I was there 2 years at Wheeler, and the coach who or was about 3 or 4 years before me at Wheeler County, was actually, I remember seeing his picture on the wall, and they used to talk about this guy and said he had left and went to LaGrange. And, I remembered his name was David Traylor was his name. And, and I'd seen that, they talked about him around town or whatever. And, my dad was actually from this area. This is where he grew up. He went to Rosemont High School here in town. And so I'd ridden through LaGrange and had a few relatives and so forth in Meriwether County. And I called randomly, looked in the old blue book. Nobody knows what a blue book is now unless you coached a while. That used to be how you looked up phone numbers for coaches. And randomly called and got David Traylor, and kind of introduced myself and said, "Hey, if you're ever looking for a job, anybody, a coach, I needed a job. I'd like to come up that way." Well, little did I know his father-in-law was the personnel guy for the school system. So when they got a job came open in July, after my second year, and they called me for an interview, and I really got hired as defensive line coach and then baseball, I was JV coach to Coach Traylor. He was the head baseball coach. So I just got my foot in the door, and I was really unqualified for the defensive line job. We were 12-2, played in the highest classification the year before, uh, and we opened with Valdosta on the road. That first year I got there, that was my first baptism. Was me coaching, pretty much being the weakest link on the staff, playing against Valdosta on the road. And so, I got hired in there and never left. My family's, I raised my kids here, and it's been a dream for us.
The old blue book, old 4 was the head baseball coach. They put a star by it. Put a star by it if you were the head coach.
That's exactly right. And 1 was football.
Yep.
And 2 was basketball, I think. Isn't that right? 3 was girls basketball, or I don't remember how it was.
Yeah, they would do, or they do 2B and 2G.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Those blue books, that was a big deal when you got the blue book.
It was like you had arrived as a coach.
That's exactly right.
And then, these younger guys that listen, they probably can't believe that that's the way we communicate.
Yeah, you'd look it up in the blue book, and you actually had the old, in the Georgia high school was a white book.
Yep.
That's what you'd say. Hey, look in the white book. If you didn't know a rule, look it up in the white book.
Yeah, if you called the GHSA and you got Dr. Swearingen, he would say, "Do you have your white book? Turn to page 36." And then he'd hang up.
Cuss you out, actually.
Yeah. He'd ask you if you had it.
He out a couple times on a couple little things like that. So, but yeah, that's how we did it. It was me and that looking up LaGrange High and seeing a picture on an old team picture and seeing David Traylor, and the kid said, "Hey, he's at LaGrange." So I randomly called him.
Well, that's awesome. So 2 coaches from Wheeler County, or that had coached at Wheeler County, end up at LaGrange at the same time.
It was definitely rare. And you think about it, David was the offensive coordinator on 3 or 4 state championships, and I was the defensive coordinator on 3 of the state championships in football. And I was the D-line coach on the first one that we won. That was the USA Today National Championship '91. But yeah, it was 2 Wheeler County guys that ended up being the coordinators on really a 20-year run. Probably the best LaGrange had ever had.
So how long were you the defensive line coach at LaGrange before you became the defensive coordinator?
I think that was it was about 7 years. I was a D-line guy. I was the defensive line coach for Gary Guthrie was our head coach. And then when Steve Pardue was on staff, and I was actually asked to apply then, but I had no interest in being the head football coach. And at that point, and Steve did, and he got the job, and then he said, I'd already turned down a coordinator job before. I didn't really want to be coordinator because I was really into the baseball stuff. But Steve said, "Hey, I really need you to do this." So Steve and I are tight. So I did it. And then I was his coordinator every year that he was the coach.
That's awesome. So how long was it working your way up from JV baseball coach before you became the head baseball coach?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because LaGrange hadn't been real good in baseball, and they had players, and it was really like a case where those guys were, how you just kind of, I don't want to say they made them coach baseball because they didn't. They were actually good baseball men, but back these guys don't understand now. In the old days, it's like football was absolutely ruled the roost. And, baseball, I mean, you might in the spring, spring football was more important than baseball, and you might be taking BP with your football pants on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just run over there and hit. I know we got a game in a week, but hey, just kind of get ready. Well, anyway, Coach Traylor, a couple people, I was an assistant for 2 years for Coach Traylor. And there was a couple schools called and asked Coach Guthrie about me. They wanted me to apply for their baseball job. And he called me in at some point, I can't remember where, and him and Coach Traylor were sitting in the office. And he said, "Hey, look, you don't need to go interview at some other job," which I really didn't want to anyway. But uh, he said, "Coach Traylor's has been he doesn't want to be the baseball coach anymore. Like he's been ready to give it up, but he didn't want to give it up until he found the right person that he thought could do it. So he kind of just stepped aside, like I would have been happy being his assistant. I mean, but he really didn't want to do it. He was the coordinator in football, and that's what he wanted to do. And he didn't want to, eat up all the time and all that stuff. Uh, so I worked for him for 2 years. And I was JV coach the first year, and helped. I asked if I could help with the varsity pitchers, so I did that. Then the second year, I was this varsity assistant, and then the next year, I took over in the third year.
So you coached Ahmad Tinker?
I did. I did.
He always talks
I know
about
a
how
lot about Ahmad Tinker.
yeah, Tink. He used to always talk about how he's like, not many people know this, but I actually played baseball too.
Well, he played young. He didn't play in high school baseball.
Right.
He played coming up. He actually didn't make it to me at that point, but he was doing track, I think, by the time I got to be kind of head coach. But he played young coming up. Now I coached him in football. He started at outside linebacker on state championship team, and which outside linebacker in our old defense, and LaGrange still runs it. They modified it, but I watch the practice all the time. It's the same stuff. They call it the same stuff pretty much. But Amon played outside linebacker, which is kind of a hybrid safety kind of guy now. And then I think the senior we had to move into inside back, just out of need. Our inside guys had graduated, and I don't want word to get out, but he was really, really smart. And I don't want him to know I said that. He was really smart, and sometimes too smart for his own good, actually.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. I love Amon. I know his family, and man, I'm proud. I'm proud of him. You know how it is when you coach. You see your guys go on, like you meet him, you don't realize just how sharp a guy he is.
Well, I always tell people there's two ways he'll talk like Mon, and then it's Dr. Tinker. And
Yeah.
he can flip the switch.
Now
And he's real good at technology too. That's how he told me that's how he got in with Coach Pardue's like, hey, I can do all of the technology stuff.
Oh, he can. Look, he taught me huddle. When I was head football coach, at that time, huddle was just kind of getting going, and Purdue retired. I said, I like this huddle stuff, and I called. He came down and like kind of clinicked some of our guys on the huddle stuff. Like he's really, really sharp. And the thing about him, he loves kids, helping kids, and he's one of those guys that he can work his way in any room and function. It can be his boys that he grew up with on the street. He can be having a dinner with the governor, and he can sit right there. Like he's a chameleon. He can work exactly like he needs to do, and it served him well. He's a really good disciplinarian. and very organized. So I'm really proud. I always see his stuff. My wife taught his son kindergarten, so I've been knowing them, for many, many, many years.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've known each other for 30 years, and he's never changed with me. He's always been good to me, and I just knew he was a LaGrange guy, and I figured it timed up right. One of the few guys I know, that stayed, because you guys got on the coaching staff and stayed there forever.
Yeah, that was a rarity because I mean, like I say, Pardue's a GACA Hall of Fame football coach, and he had the same coordinators his entire tenure. I guarantee you that probably doesn't happen real often. Maybe at some of the real small schools it might, but usually guys will go off and try to get a job and that kind of thing. But he had me and Coach Traylor. Neither one of us really wanted to be head football coach. I didn't want to be head football coach when I got the job. In honesty, which is a horrible way to get a job. Uh, I was going to say no, and Purdue said, "Hey, you need to understand it's a good bit more money, and this is really going to affect your retirement." He started writing it down. And I said, "I'm going to go talk to my wife about this." So I did. That's a terrible reason. I love the kids and all that, but I was a little bit worried they might hire somebody from outside. That I was too old to want to work for somebody from outside. And then I thought about, hey, that's going to help my retirement. So I did it for 3 years, and we did okay. That time our players weren't. We didn't have the same players that we had in the 2000s, but it was a great experience. And we won some games, made the playoffs, that kind of thing. But we never were like a state championship caliber.
Well, hey, coaches, if your team needs to raise money, check out Scoreboard Fundraising. In the past year, they've helped more than 1,000 teams across the Southeast run simple, effective fundraisers, from popcorn to online donations. Call Mike James at 770-680-3424 or visit scoreboardfundraising.com. A lot of teams I know are using these guys. He makes it competitive and fun for the kids, not just your football program, but any athletic program that you might be looking to raise money. Check out scoreboardfundraising.com. Tell them I sent you. Call Mike James at 770-680-3424, our title sponsor for the next 3 seasons on Sun Coaches Podcast. Well, Coach, y'all won a lot, baseball and football. You have won over 600 games. That's 20 wins a year for 30 years average. How did that happen?
Well, that means I've had some good players, number one, and some really good staff members. And it wasn't easy. I can tell you that. It was a lot of work out of everybody, not just me. Uh, and the hard part about the wins, not when you see the wins now, and I really don't keep up with it other than my assistants. I got my 600th win here a while back, and the parents did something, and had a nice sign, all that stuff, and they actually put my name on the scoreboard. And it was really, really nice. I had no idea, like, that was my 600th win. Uh, and my son tells me I'm closing in on my 700th. Now, if we have a team like we had last year, it may take 5 years to get there. I'm not sure, but uh, but I really don't keep up with it. But I think the beauty that I'm most proud of in the my number of wins, because it's really the school's number of wins, is we used to not play that many games.
Right.
So like my first year at Wheeler County, we were like, they had won one or two and we won six, and they thought that I was Bobby Cox. You know what I mean? They thought I was great. We won six. We were like 6-12. We played 18 games. My second year, we went to playoffs. We were 16-6, and that was when I figured, hey, it's probably a good time to get going. We have that kind of year there, but like we used to play 18-24 games. So getting 20, averaging 20 when it started like that, we weren't always, the young coaches don't realize, a lot of coaches before them, and not just me, but a lot of smart coaches uh, fought to get to 30 games. That was a goal a long time ago. So we got to 30 games where, we play a nice 30 game schedule now. So, getting those wins. And I also personally had a 6-year break where I retired and I didn't coach any baseball. So there was a large gap for me between 500 and 600 because I wasn't coaching. I was out of coaching baseball from 2013 through 18. So that was 6 years. I didn't coach anything. I was completely retired and running a travel baseball uh, place here in town. So, it's those wins were they were a grind, and we had losses too. Believe me. So, but yeah, I'm proud that we scrambled our way. And the other thing was the first 12 to 14 years I was at LaGrange, we played in the highest classification. Uh, and there was 4A, and we played 4A. We played the Park News, the Lassiters, and we were 2A size because in football, that was expected. We played big boy football, and that's the way it was going to be. So all of us, the other sports, we had to compete with the big boys. And we managed to hold our own and go to Final Fours. And in fact, some of those teams in the 90s, I'd have a hard time believing any double A team could beat them. We had some really, really good players in the 90s and late 80s. So, uh, like I say, so those wins are, to me, more special how we got them than the number of them.
So what year did you win the state championship?
We won it in 2004. And we played for it in 2022 and 2023 when I came back. And uh, 2022, we lost to North Oconee, who was they were a generational team. They went 39-1. About 5 or 6 of those guys are in pro ball or the SEC right now. In fact, Georgia's closer was one of them. Florida's leadoff hitter was one of them. And we played them really, really tough. They walked us off in game one. Game two, they beat us 7-5 or 9-5, something like that. Scored late. We were tied in the sixth. So we played about as good as we could play. The next year, they beat us in 3 games. And they were really good then, too. So we had a shot then. But again, we ran into a team that was really just the second year we were pretty even, but first year they were a whole lot better than us. But we won it in '04 and have been close multiple times.
Well, you'd have to have been to won as many games you had, and I just know that for a long time, the Dixie Youth Baseball, it was going to be LaGrange and Columbia County. It's going to be whoever won that was going to win the state, and then they were going to go. They were going to go do that in summer ball, but it's because the high school ball was so good too, and then you got the schools around you in the county. Well, they're good too. So I mean, there's
Yeah,
just a lot of good baseball talent in that part of the state.
yeah. I wish some of them weren't so good, but I'm old school. I don't pull for everybody. I can like the coach, but not pull for the school. I can separate. But yeah, and you're right. Columbia County. When I came to Lagrange, and it was, travel ball was just not going yet. It was just there was a little bit in Atlanta, nothing really here, and the recreation stuff was king. And then we played Dixie, and what I did was I used to coach in the Dixie and get our kids on the team. That's kind of how I started trying to build our program was by getting all the kids on, Lagrange kids on the same, teams together. And then at the end of summer, I mean, we'd go up and we'd always finish first or second. Me and the troop coach at the time, who was John Wilson, we'd end up coaching the all-star team together, And you're right, Columbia County was unbelievably good, and sometimes we got them, sometimes they got us, but whoever won, you knew they were really, really good, and all the high schools were thriving. Uh, at that time in Troup County, it was Hogansville, LaGrange, and Troup, and in Columbia County, it was all those schools you know. I mean, your Evanses, I guess Greenbrier wasn't going yet, but Evans and Lakeside and Harlem's and West Sides and all those people. Uh, and baseball was flourishing at that time. Uh, and I think it's almost the golden age of baseball. I think the talent was great in both places. And even though maybe kids are playing more baseball, I'm not sure they're actually more talented baseball players today.
I would agree with that. It's hard to watch. Like I don't watch MLB anymore, and I was a baseball kid. I was a baseball coach. I don't coach it anymore. Parents ran me out. I let them do it. I let it bother me, and I can't can't get back in it. But I enjoyed it. And let me ask you this: what was your? I mean, you were obviously a college pitcher, so did you put an onus on developing pitching? Is that how you made your program so strong over the years?
I would say that and the weight room. Um, those are the two things that I think are the trademarks of our program. I coach the pitchers so much, they get tired of me coaching them. No kid can ever come through here and go, man, I wish coach would work with me on something. I'm on them. And look, my guys, I have college kids. Like the other day, I got a kid pitching at Alcorn State. He sent me 8 videos last night at midnight. Coach, look at my videos. Like I coached them so much that like they relied on me. Like I really tried to take the parent end out of it by coaching them so much and so hard and having that relationship with them that I didn't allow them to get any other voice except mine. And like the other day, we lift 4 days a week all summer, regardless of they'll go play a travel game. If they got a game, they'll miss. Other than that, our kids lift. Our kids eat together after they lift 4 days a week in the summer, every week except dead weeks. Uh, and when we were lifting in the mid 90s in the summer, our baseball kids, we lifted with the football kids. And now we lift I have 35 players that lift together 4 days a week now, not counting the football kids, and that's another chunk. So, and we're not right now. That's our only hope. Like a lot of years, because everybody thinks we have great players. We do have really good. We've had some great players, but most of our guys are pretty good players, and they're JUCO type baby prospects. And all that work is what's going to put them over the edge and help us get over the edge and be successful. So we've been ahead of the curve in the weight room. And I know that people do it now. I mean, we're not obviously doing anything that others aren't. But in the summer, I guarantee you most aren't doing what our kids do in the summer. And the pitchers are constantly coached. Like, yeah, like I say, last year we pitched poorly for a lot of reasons. And my quote was, if I wasn't a pitching coach, I'd fire him. You know what I mean? Like last year. But usually that's our trademark. We can pitch, no matter if a guy's going 78 or 88. We're going to do a good job of pitching. And usually our kids have worked a little harder in the weight room, even though we might not look real big. But if a kid knows he's paid a price, the old saying, the harder I work, the harder it is to surrender. And that's always stuck in my mind. If these kids put in extra work, when it gets tough, you figure they're going to buckle down and compete. And if they hadn't worked hard, they give in. So that's kind of been our trademark over the years.
Yeah, that was something growing up in Columbia County. We knew when we played the LaGrange team, they were one of the only, maybe Columbus, but one of the only other places in the state that understood if you throw strikes and you make plays and you hit a little bit, just wait for the other group to mess up, because they will. The pressure will get to them. And then when it does, you'll have a 7-run inning, you know.
You're exactly right. They'll say in most games are lost, not won. And, I'm telling you, when a kid can't throw strikes, like my initial reaction is you wish you could like punch him in the stomach, but you love the kid. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But that's my initial reaction is that's what I want, because I tell them, look, everybody, you control this game. Like everything you do, how your body language, the pitcher and the catcher sets the tone. And do not be scared to throw the ball over the plate. We're going to change. I call the pitches. We're going to change speeds. Generally, we're going to try to throw any pitch, any count, and let those guys behind you play. They're going to love you if you let them play. And if you do that, like I say, if you execute a little bit on offense, next thing you know, you'll be playing somebody really, really good, and it'll be 3-3 in the fifth inning, and you got a shot. And that's kind of what you're shooting for.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to put you on the spot with your players because you've had so many over the years, but who are some other guys that you saw play that you were like, ooh-wee, that he's really good at baseball?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and say something about one of our players because he was actually murdered. But his name is Darnell Stinson. He was the best baseball player that I had the privilege of coaching, and I coached him in football as well. But he was a second round draft pick, and he had made it to the big leagues and got murdered out in the Arizona Fall League. In 2003, he got murdered, but he played in the mid '90s. He was a freak athlete, unbelievable kid. And we've had major leaguers. And Darnell had made it to the big leagues, had just made it. And then Mike Cameron made it, played for 16 years in the big leagues. So I got to coach those two. But some opponents that I got to see up close and personal, unfortunately, sometimes, Jeff Francoeur was an unbelievable high school player. He actually spoke at our first pitch dinner. I've been friends with him since he played. And he was unbelievable. He could throw, 93, 94 on the mound. Unbelievable raw power. I got to see Buster Posey, who's a Hall of Fame catcher. I don't know if he's in it, but he's going to be in the Hall of Fame if he's not. But he was unbelievable. I mean, he was 90-something on the mound. He played shortstop in high school. But, they threw him a mitt and said, go catch at Florida State, and he was an All-American. I mean, he was a freak. Jason Hayward, who's another Brave that was really, really good. Eric Hosmer, who won the World Series with the Kansas City Royals, was an unbelievable player in high school. I saw him, hit home runs. And all these guys, and this is what kids don't understand, almost all of them were athletes. They pitched, they hit, they could play wherever. Hosmer was 90-something on the mound, and then he'd go up and hit, backside 400-foot home runs. I mean, and then Drew was a guy, he could play anywhere. Hayward was a freak on the bases, Francoeur, I think he won both games or closed both games and knocked in 12 runs in the state championship series versus Lasseter. So these guys were unbelievable. I'm sure there's some I'm missing, but there's a kid that's in the big leagues now who's an absolute stud. He just got called up. Blaze Jordan. He's out of Mississippi. We played against him, and he had a couple of balls I actually feared for my infielders. That they were sizzling. I mean, this guy's bat speed was unbelievable, and he was a good draft pick. And I noticed he played the Braves last night, and he was in the lineup. So he's a name to watch. Everybody will know his name here before long because he's really, really special. So I've been blessed. I've gotten to see a bunch of uh, really go. I'll tell you another one that's Zach Wheeler with the Philadelphia Phillies, uh, who was out of Paulding. I can't remember, North or South Paul, East Paulding, one of the Paulding schools. And I saw him hit 97 on the radar gun in high school. Uh, and yeah, he was skinny. He's a man now. He's one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball. But right there at our field, home field, he was 94 to 97 in high school. So I've been blessed to see a bunch of really really good ones.
Well, you took a break and you got into travel ball. What made you come back and decide to get back in, Coach?
Well, I retired from teaching, and I did the football thing. They really didn't want me to do both sports. I did both for a couple of years, and then they said, "Hey, you probably don't need to do it." And they were right. I didn't. But I gave up baseball for 6 years, and I was just trying to. I was fully retired. Doing teacher retirement and trying to make a little few bucks. So I did. Had a former player, Shannon Snyder, who was working at a travel group here in town, and got in with him. Then we ultimately got in with a guy named Lester Miller, who's the mayor of Macon, Georgia now. He and I are friends, and he started a thing called Game On Baseball. That was our travel organization name, Game On. And I think he had a facility, a building here he bought, and I ran it day to day. I'd give some lessons. I formed a few little travel teams, and I did that and made a little bit of money, and stayed around the game. And I actually wanted the team that Troop won the state with a couple of years ago. Heck, I helped put that team together. That was a travel team that we put together, and they ended up winning the state at our arch rival. So that wasn't very smart. Uh, that I did that when they were like 9, 10 years old. But I was going to the games and giving lessons and all that and watching. The head coach left. He took another job, and word got out. He took it before the year was over. It was a new school. It was David Smart, who was a good friend of mine and a really good coach. He took the Denmark job, which was a new school, and word leaked out that he was. And there was people here in town. I was at the games and that kind of deal, supporting him. And a couple of them said, "Hey, would you consider coming back?" And I said, at that point, I had no real thought of coming back. I thought I was done. And there was a rule in Troup County at that time, like a retired teacher, like couldn't be a head coach. So I think, they changed that rule. And then the principal called me and said, "Would you be interested?" We had lunch, and my only question was to him is, uh, "Are you going to will you let me run it? Like I like to run it, and because he wasn't around, but he knew me." And I said, "Will you let me run it like I run it?" And he goes, "Absolutely, because I don't have I know it's odd, but like I don't have parent conferences." You know, uh, like I tell them up front that I'll meet with your kid anytime, and I love to meet with a kid. If a kid's got a question or concern, I deal with them because I coach them. I make them, if they're sick, they have to call me, and they do all their business, and I have a great rapport with the parents, but I don't meet with them and talk about playing time and all that stuff. And I said, "Are y'all going to support that?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "That'll be something that I'll, that I definitely consider and talk to my wife." So, when they kind of said, "Hey, they'd let me do it like I like to do it." And so it's worked out. And I've come back and I've had a ball, and I've got a lot of time on my hands. So it's probably tough on the players because I don't have to teach school. 6 a.m. workouts. I can go back home. I tell them I'm gonna go to Waffle House. Y'all are going to class. I'm gonna go do a 6 a.m. 4-on-1. I'm going to Waffle House. I can go home and take a nap. So it's been those kids have had to work because I do have a lot of time on my hands.
Very well learned. Well, Coach, over the years, who are some of the guys that you enjoy competing against? Some of your peers, some of the guys, whether they were football coaches or baseball coaches, or did both like you did? Because most times some of these young guys don't get it. You were a elite defensive coordinator, winning state championships, and you were an elite head baseball coach.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but one of the ones that I really enjoyed was Stuart Chester at Cartersville, now at Buford. Stuart had the same job I had. He was defensive coordinator at Cartersville on really good teams. He loved football, and he coached baseball at an elite program. And we battled. I mean, that's who we beat in the state championship. They won 3 in a row, and we beat them to break their 3-year run. And he and I, the first call I got that afternoon after it was all over was call from him just saying, "Man, if anybody deserves it, you guys do." He was first class all the way. So we've maintained a friendship all those years, and like I say, and we broke each other's heart. Like we've eliminated each other. So he's won. Bobby Howard at Columbus High. Anytime you play them, it's like an absolute battle. Me and you talked about that. It's always entertaining, and it's always his teams are going to be really good and really well coached. Terry Holder was one of my coaching heroes, and first year we won a region championship at LaGrange. We got the honor of playing Evans, and I can't remember. It might have been in the quarters or the semis. One of his state championship teams. We took him 3 games, extra innings, but he eliminated us, and I always had a lot of respect for Coach Holder and still do. He's definitely one. Ray Van Teague at Carrollton in football. I always enjoyed competing against him. At the beginning there for a while, we got the best of him, and then he got the best of us at the end, and he beat us 6-0 when he was at Swainsboro, and they ended up going on to win the state championship big. So I think that was kind of the state championship when they beat us 6-0. Those are kind of some. Dusty Hubbard at Callaway. We've never been in the same region, but I've got a lot of respect for Dusty. Dusty's played at Southern Union. He's a Hogansville guy, and he was the DC and a baseball coach. And always done a really good job here locally. And I've always enjoyed, we play each other every year, but it's, we get after it, and then, we kind of, get over it. So, I'd say some of those guys are some of the ones that, now I'm kind of enjoying the new, I'm like Methuselah out there now with all the coaches, they're in their 30s, and I enjoy competing, with Brandon Crumley at Whitewater, Tanner Glisson at Troop. Those guys are really good coaches and got good programs. So, like I say, and look, I steal an idea with the best of them. I mean, we change something every year, some little something that we steal. I mean, so I watch what these guys do and try to pick them apart and see what we can do to get better.
Well, Coach, you spent a long time getting better and making kids better, both on the football field and the baseball diamond. And I sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Hey, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.